Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of RE274, where I take old stories I've narrated and update into modern audio standards. This particular story is called My Eyes, written by Kiev KRS. You understand the procedure, correct? Affirmative. Bilaxis coiled a skeptical tendril. Confirm for me. Repeat the procedure. Its partner, Tuskny, flared its mouthparts in a rough equivalent of a sigh. Activate immobilization array. Once subject is stationary, engage gravitation lensing and lift the subject aboard. Apply neurochemical stabilizers to counteract potential harm from the array and sedate for continued study. Simple. Tuskny folded its upper arms crosswise. Are you satisfied? May we commence? We may. There is a subject 2 in Kratz, west and closing swiftly. Stand by to activate the array. The jig is up. The news is out that they finally found me. The renegade who had it made retrieved for a bounty. Steve Jackson bobbed his head vigorously in time with the music, mouthing the lyrics as he cruised along the empty country road. His windows were down, and his old pickup speakers roared defiantly against the rush of the wind. He was pretty sure the cornstalks half a mile away were rocking out to sticks along with him as he drove past. Suddenly, a beam of light encircled his truck, a glowing circle 15 feet in diameter. Confused, he slammed on the brakes and brought the vehicle to a screeching halt. The scent of scorched rubber stung his nose as he stepped out of the truck and gazed skyward. There was nothing to see but a flare of light, or perhaps a series of lights. It was difficult to tell. Squinting made little difference against the harsh glare. With a shrug, he turned back to his truck, feeling an odd tingle at his heel when he moved. Had the ground just gotten lighter? Feeling unsettled by the odd phenomenon, Jackson rummaged around under the passenger seat and dug out a weathered-looking revolver, as well as his emergency flashlight, rated at something approaching 50,000 lumens. He was pretty sure that he could signal the goddamn moon with it if he had to.
The subject moved, Flex. How is that possible?
I'm not certain. He did gaze directly into the array, did he not?
He did. He was completely stationary right until I engaged the graviton.
Balax lashed its tendrils in confusion, thinking deeply. Focus the array and increase its power 20%. Perhaps this one is simply more resistant than others. When Jackson turned around, he noticed the circle of light had shrunk visibly around him, growing brighter as it did. Shielding his eyes with one hand, he looked upward again, trying to determine the source of the illumination, and flicked on his flashlight. A dark teardrop-shaped craft loomed above him, the size of a large RV. "Jesus fucking Christ!" he shouted, stumbling backwards out of the light. This time, there was no mistaking the floating sensation in his feet, or the small pebbles in the road that began to levitate, even as he fell on his arse. The moment he moved, they ceased their hovering and clattered back to the ground. Tuskny glared at his burned-out monitor with a very human expression of frustration. The illumination device in the being's hand had fried their underside optics and caused a small electrical fire in the monitor's circuits. The entire cabin smelled of smoldering copper.
The array is not working, Flex. Land us. I'll retrieve this one in person.
Worry bordering on panic caused its partner's facial tendrils to flail madly. Are you certain that is wise?
He insults my pride with his clumsiness, and, Tuskny added, if he is somehow immune to the immobilization arrays, it is imperative that we capture him and deduce the source of his resistance.
Very well. I shall initiate a landing sequence. Under its breath, Flex added with a grumble, "On your head be the consequences." The light above Jackson went out, plunging the road into darkness. Only the headlights of his truck offered visibility. Small insects danced in the beams. He heard the whisper of a breeze behind him and slowly rose to his feet, aiming the flashlight back the way he had come. The strange craft, alien man, fucking aliens, was just settling down on the pavement 20 yards down the road. A thin oval line appeared on its lower surface. weak orange light spilling out as it split it like a pizza wedges and folded inward. A being dropped from the portal, seeming to slow and hover just before its appendages touched the ground. Jackson lifted his pistol, aligning it with the flashlight in the manner that he'd seen cops do in those crime shows his girlfriend watched. The moment the flashlight hit the creature, however, it froze solidly in place. Cautiously, he approached the craft, keeping his light trained squarely on the alien. Up close, he could see that it was not entirely frozen, but its body was stiff and its eyes glassy, somehow entranced by the high-powered flashlight. "The hell are you?" he wondered aloud. To his surprise, the being replied immediately, and in perfect English, "I'm Twigsney, xenobiologist of the Lingarfi Collective." A trembling quality, not unlike fear, edged its words. "Please lower your array." Jackson didn't know what array it was talking about, but he wasn't about to let his guard down in front of an alien, especially when he was pretty sure it had been trying to abduct him. "What are you doing here? What were those lights all about?"
"The immobilization array for sake of capture and study for local organisms. I do not understand. It worked perfectly on the hoofed animals we obtained yesterday. Why are you immune?"
After a long silence, the dots connected in Jackson's head, and he threw back his head in a loud, braying laughter. "Oh, damn, dude, those are just deer. That bright light shit don't work on us."
"It does not?"
Jackson almost felt sorry for the diminutive by whatever it was. Sexual? Nah, that wasn't right. Well, whatever it was, it had his pity. You ever had some city slickers BMW up your ass with an LED high beams? Way worse than your little spotlight, man. He lowered his flashlight and returned to his truck. Minutes later, the rumbling engine receded into the night, accompanied by the harmonic wailing guitars. A gathering of angels appeared above my head. They sang to me the song of hope, and this is what they said. It was another 10 minutes before Twigsney shook off the effects of the human's light and climbed unsteadily back into the ship. Pixelis glanced at his partner. "You let it leave?"
"I require more knowledge,"
the xenobiologist replied.
"What is a PMW?"
End of story. Story number 2. How Does That Work? Written by 3 ducks in a man's suit.
So what? How? Just explain this from the beginning, each step. How does this work?
I took a moment before answering to admire the translation equipment the ethereals used. It conveyed a sense of confusion and curiosity very efficiently, considering their kind possessed no faces or audible voices at all. Well, I knelt over the antenna, eager to start explaining. First, the microphone captures the sounds we want to transmit. That's this part right here, okay? Yeah, that's the one. So that captures the sounds and turns them into electrical energy. Then, how do I explain this bit? Right. Then that electrical energy flows through this antenna, which boosts it, and that generates electromagnetic radiation in the form of radio waves. With me so far? I struggled to perceive any kind of reaction to my explanation. Was he getting it? He, she, ethereals are genderless, right? They didn't even have physical forms. It just looked like a vaguely bluish splash of light drifting through the air, interspersed with diamond flashes, stars in a miniature galaxy. They really were quite beautiful. I decided on the spot this one was female. I'm going to call it a she. Meh, why not? So, anyway, any receiver within range of that signal can intercept it with their own antennas and convert it back into electric current, which we can then be translated back into sound. And in this way, we can communicate over vast distances. I stood back, hoping the translation software was picking up the beaming smile on my face and conveying accurately what I was saying. Humanity has used this technology for centuries now. We have it down to a very fine science, and it's quite reliable. So what do you think? It had surprised me to learn that ethereals had never heard of anything even close to the concept of radio, but I was happy to explain.
Mr. Tracy?
Her voice was vaguely feminine. I made the right choice.
That's completely insane.
The smile froze on my face. Huh? The sparkling lights within the ethereal swirling body jumped and danced. The translator picked up on it and gave her voice a prickly edge.
That's not how the universe works at all.
I blinked, words escaping me. It works like, we've been using these since the 19th century, I guess. I know that must seem like the blink of an eye to a race as old as yours, but that's practically the dawn of technology age for us.
Mr. Tracy, there is nothing about this radio that should work at all. Compression waves do not work that way. Electricity does not work that way. And electromagnetic radiation does not work that way.
I cleared my throat. What exactly was going on here? I thought the ethereal ambassador was just interested in learning about Earth's history, but...
I suspected this when you told me about how your combustion engines of old worked.
The ambassador had calmed down somewhat, but there was a distinct tired edge in the translated voice now.
Mr. Tracy, this radio does not work on electromagnetic waves at all. It's a psychic transmitter.
That's simply not possible. I shook my head. Humans aren't psychic at all, I'm afraid. We have no history of it at all, aside from the occasional crackpot who manages to convince the gullible that they can see the future or bend spoons or other similar tomfoolery. I chuckled, my laughter only petering out lamely when I realized I was the only one finding anything funny.
Mr. Tracy.
The ethereal seemed to condense somewhat from her 12-foot-high indistinct form into something more solid and humanly proportioned.
We detected a massive psychic field surrounding your race the moment we found you. It saturates your homeworld so heavily that most psychic species cannot even set foot on Earth without their minds melting from the strain of so much ambient energy. Your technology works.
I held my breath, unsure what to think.
Because you all think it should work. Radios, cars, computers, really. But none of you stopped to think for a moment how ridiculous the idea of getting into space by riding an explosion was.
I struggled for a response, but found myself stuttering. I was an engineer for almost 20 years. This was nonsense. It was all science, right? 1 + 1 = 2, right?
Did you not wonder why your advancement in technological progress mirrored your growth in population so closely? The more humans there were to believe in something, to contribute their own individual power to the gestalt psychic field you have, the more your species has been able to bend and even break the fundamental laws of nature. Did you really think that you had managed to split the atom by using an explosion? Does that not sound completely insane even to your ears?
Well, when you put it like that, I shuffled my feet, trying to ignore the way my entire worldview and education was being torn apart.
And then there's the war of two halves.
My head jerked up, the excuse of justifications already in my throat. We didn't start that war. After we won, they spent the next 4 years spinning their propaganda machine to make us out as the aggressors.
You really should have had no chance there. A species barely into its space age, fighting a centuries-old established empire. Ludicrous. Guns that should have not worked, damaged creatures that should have been immune to such kinetic weaponry in an environment where you should not have been able to stand in, let alone breathe. But you did so anyway because for some reason you think it's completely normal just to take a piece of your home atmosphere with you to other planets and breathe that. Honestly.
It was still difficult to decipher the exact emotions ethereals felt, but I was learning fast.
Just please try not to get into any more fights, okay?
I nodded, feeling kind of dumb. How the heck was I going to explain the internet? End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.